When you think of the challenges that a church planter faces as they walk out, try to begin to lay the foundation of a new church, there is a spiritual element. We just kind of spent some time talking about the spiritual challenges, the three crises that a church planter goes in. So it's not a far-fetched thing for us to talk about that prayer and planting really are things that have to go together. And so, as we're talking about that, I just want to pose the question. I think this is an important question for everybody to wrestle through is who's actually praying for you as you move forward to plant the church? I encourage every planter that is heading out to aim at having 100 different people committed to praying for you, your family, you and your marriage, and this new vision, this new church that's about to get started. Because it is a spiritual thing that you're doing. I encourage you to try to take even 60 seconds and just pause and write down as many names of people that you think of immediately come to your mind that would be willing to pray for you. And then with that in mind, go after 100. Now, when it comes to who do we ask, how do we ask, let me walk you through some steps there. There's kind of four categories of people I would encourage you to ask being a part of your prayer team. Number one, aim at those seasoned saints. There are people that you're aware of that you know, even within your networks, they've just walked with Jesus for a long time. They've developed over time a understanding of what a prayer life actually is, what it looks like, how it connects with the heart of God. And they would love nothing more than to take time and just pray for you and lift you up and lift up this vision for this new church. So you want to do everything you possibly can to get seasoned saints to be a part of this process. I remember we spent some time with our first church plant up in front. I was having a conversation about our desire and the vision and what we were going to be doing with the church plant. The church was a church of 1,000, maybe 1,200 people. And I asked that the greeters hand out a little nut, kind of like a bolt and a nut, but the little nut to everybody when they walked in. And then I just told everybody, I said, you may think of us, and I had them hold that up, you may think that we're nuts for going out and trying to do this. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Would you take that little nut and put it on your keychain? And every time that you pull out your keys and you see that nut, would you just take a moment and just pray for us and pray in this effort of what we're doing and helping try to establish this new church? Immediately, we had well over 800 adults that all of a sudden, seasoned saints that are committed to praying for us in that process. So it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out process, but you want to do everything you can to mobilize prayer warriors for you. The second category of who you want to look for are gifted intercessors. These are people that, I don't know how else to put it, they're just gifted when it comes to prayer. They consider that this is their number one ministry that they bring to the church, and they love nothing more than just to sit at the footstool of Christ and just pray and just talk. And again, it's like when they pray, God listens and God answers. My tendency in interacting with these people is they tend to be a little bit weird, but don't allow that to scare you. You want gifted intercessors on your team. Third is just those fellow believers, people you interact with, even people that may not be in your specific network of people. You want to include them and invite them to be on that team. And then I would say that what I would dub the last couple people would be what I call God-given intercessors. And there's not going to be a huge number of God-given intercessors. You're talking maybe 2 or 3 people where you're not finding them, they're finding you. And it's as though God has just put something deeply in their heart and called them to specifically come and pray for you in this season of planting a church. They're an incredible gift, and you want to wait patiently to those people step forward. And those are the type of people you can entrust with more confidential prayer requests as well as you're in that process. Now, what are we actually asking them to do? A couple things. One is there's a group of them that you're probably kind of looking at going, hey, would you be willing to pray for us every single day? That's your God-given intercessors, the one that God brings your way. There are seasoned saints that would be willing to commit to every single day praying for you. Fellow believers, you're probably asking them to do maybe like once a week. And then those gifted intercessors, they're people as well that could pray for you each and every day. And then you want to figure out, how am I actually going to communicate our needs to them? A lot of different ways. You can go kind of with an old school newsletter approach and put all the kind of key information, what's been going on this past month, share some celebration points, maybe some life change that's taken place. And then you want to leave a section to just talk about, hey, here's some specific things I would ask you to pray for. But again, those God-given intercessors and some of those gifted intercessors, you want to make sure you keep them close and to you personally and keep that relationship strong. And so they're the type of people you probably want to text or phone call, even on a weekly basis. Hey, here's what's kind of going on. Would you be willing to lift this up? Here, I'm struggling with this today. Would you pray for me as I'm walking through this struggle? And just knowing that these people are committed to that, I'm telling you, will relieve you so much and give you so much more peace and strength as you move forward in this process. So how do you ask them? If you can, face-to-face, one-on-one, fantastic way to do that. Some of them are going to be in a small group. Some of them may be in a large group setting, kind of like I shared with you with the nut and that illustration. But again, you want to give them a definitive timeline. Hey, would you pray for us every single day, or would you pray for us every single week? Would you pray for us every month? And then accordingly, kind of connect the dots in communication, how you're going to communicate with them. How do you keep your prayer team engaged? Well, you need to celebrate answered prayer. And so when not only do you say thank you, but there's no greater way to keep your team motivated and keep them praying for you than when you say, hey guys, you remember when we asked you to pray for this? Well, God answered that prayer, and this is how God answered it. And so when they begin to see specifically, yeah, I prayed for that, and God answered that, that will just add fuel to their fire and will keep them praying and keep them engaged, praying for you and your team. I love how John Piper puts it. He says this, he says, prayer is really primarily a wartime walkie-talkie for the mission of the church as it advances against the powers of darkness and unbelief. It is not surprising that prayer malfunctions when we try to make it a domestic intercom to call upstairs for more comforts in the den. Ouch. I hope that you see as we're walking out to plant this new church that you are stepping into a spiritual battle. It's very real, nothing that we need to be afraid of. But we need to see that prayer is that critical connection piece to the one who brings the reinforcements. There's a movie illustration that I absolutely love this movie, We Were Soldiers, starring Mel Gibson. And the movie takes place in the Vietnam War and specific battles that were fought in the Vietnam War. And he's in a moment, he's in the midst of the battle, and the enemy has completely surrounded them. And they're trying to figure out what are they going to do to survive. And in that moment, we see that Mel Gibson's character, he calls out to those around him and says, hey, Broken Arrow. And Broken Arrow was this code name for the guy who's the key communicator to communicate back to the home base. We are under attack. We're overwhelmed. We need reinforcements. And so all he had to do was hop on that walkie-talkie, call out Broken Arrow, and all of a sudden they send in air support that clears the path and saves the day in that process. I've taken that model in a very literal sense when it comes to praying, and even within our movement of Converge, there are a lot of pastors, a lot of church planters that have also adopted this, that at any moment that I could put out on text, I could put out on social media, just the code phrase, Broken Arrow. And there is a commitment by those that understand what that means to get on their knees immediately and to begin to pray for us in whatever. They don't even know all the details of what's going on. They just know that there's something in our life that's making us feel absolutely overwhelmed. And they step in between the gap and they intercede on our behalf. And I'm telling you, friends, there's nothing more powerful than when you're walking through dark seasons in ministry and dark seasons in life, knowing that you can just put out a quick word and knowing that there are hundreds of people immediately that will get down on their knees and pray for you in that process. Friends, planting and prayer go together. Do not neglect this. Go after it. Aim for 100 people to be on your prayer team. I know you can do it, and it'll be an incredible blessing to see what God continues to do.